To start our session, addressing the challenges and solution to Southeast Asia's migrant workers, I would like to invite the moderator, Natalia Wijaya, President of Indonesian Diaspora Network Global, who will moderate this discussion. Please welcome Natalia.
Test. Hello, good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, how are you today? Very good. Okay, so thank you for coming and joining us in this session. So we will be talking about addressing the challenges and solutions to Southeast Asia's migrant workers. So today, we are very honored to have 4 very excellent panelists, and let us give round of applause when I call their name by one, okay? So the first one is Dr. Jayan Menon. He is a senior fellow at the ISIS Yusof Isaac Institute, Singapore. Yes. Welcome, Dr. Jayan. And the second panelist will be Dr. Bolavin Sisol. Please, Dr. Jayan, yes. She is a Vice Head of International Relations Department, National University of Laos. And the third one is Annie Lestari. She is a chairperson of International Migrant Alliance. And the fourth one, Mr. Adrian Pereira. He is the Executive Director of North-South Initiative, Malaysia. Welcome. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we know that Southeast Asia is a home to approximately 7.5 million of migrant workers. And despite of the positive economic growth that they are bringing to Southeast Asia, but we know that there are a lot of challenges, struggling. So they are facing every day. Not only the migrant workers, but also their families back in the home country. So today, through this discussion, we will be discussing the issues of migrant workers in Southeast Asia, and also we will be discussing about what kind of strategies or a better practices to be implemented for better solutions, better well-being of the migrant workers. So firstly, we would like to ask the panelists here, 4 panelists, according to you, what are the crucial issues of the Southeast Asia's migrant workers? And as we know, actually government and a lot of CSOs have been doing a lot of strategies that are impactful for the migrant workers, but we still see there are some gaps between the policies and implementation. So according to you, what are the crucial issues and what is the gap between? Maybe we can start from Dr. Jayan. Yeah.
All right. Okay, good, it's working. Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, and thank you all for coming here. There's another interesting session. There are other interesting sessions today, so you chose us, which is great news, and obviously means you're worried about migrant workers. I think the crucial issue right now is how there are challenges emerging on the trade front, on protectionism, on technology with the disruptions from AI, and so many other mega trends. And the critical one related to migrant workers, I think, is the demographic transition that's taking place in ASEAN. ASEAN is aging, but not all at the same rate. The youngest countries are also the poorest countries, Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar, and the richer countries are actually getting old very fast. So we need to increase labor migration for win-win outcomes, right? To find employment for those workers in poor countries that are young, and to counteract the shrinking labor forces in the richer countries of ASEAN. So that, I think, is a critical factor, and we should not raise barriers at a time when we need to increase mobility and increase labor outcomes, labor market outcomes.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Jan. And how about you? According to you, Dr. Vian, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, moderator, for giving me the chance to have speak now. For me, the curious issue that concerning about migrant worker, actually, I also agree with doctors. And however, I want to add some point. For example, if you look at the term of crucial issue that happen in my country, particularly in Laos, what the first thing is undocumented migrant worker. Why I say so? Because the undocumented migrant worker, it could lead to the invisible, because you might know that in the labor from, for example, the labor from Laos to across to Thailand to work, because we have like a non-visa, so that's why it happened to the undocumented migrant worker. That is the first crucial that I want to share.
Okay, so undocumented migrant workers. Yes, yeah. So undocumented migrant workers. How about in your perspective, Annie?
So, like what has been said, ASEAN is a place where sending and receiving migrant workers happening at the same time, even transit migrants. But up to now, we don't have regionally recognized legal standard of rights. There is no minimum wage applied to all region, all countries, rest day, sick leave, or that kind of rights is actually up to the national government. And that's the reason why ASEAN become very important in this role, but we have to really assess whether ASEAN is really doing its work in terms of legalizing the protection and the rights of migrants.
Okay, yeah, so lack of rights and protections. Thank you. Okay, and Adrian?
Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. How many of you here have traced your ancestors' origins?
There is one, Mr. Adrian.
So maybe for homework, I advise you to go back and check the lineage, where they come from. And the reason why I'm asking you to check this is there's a high probability that your ancestors came from someplace. And if you are doing okay in this room, it means that a series of migration that happened did work out well. But unfortunately today, the philosophy is they make it easy for rich people to travel, but for those from lower income, it becomes very difficult. You have to pay a ridiculous recruitment fee, you have to use the service of traffickers, and so on and so forth. So I think for me, the real issue is there's a philosophical issue that is preventing or causing the other rights abuses. Yeah.
That's very interesting. So we can say that the migrant workers nowadays, they are more prone because they are lack of legal protections and as well as very weak migration process. So according to what Mr. Adrian just raised right now, it's about recruitment fee that's very high and even maybe overcharge for the recruitment fee. According to Dr. Jayan as an economist, how do you see? What is the impact, you know, from recruitment fee to the migrant workers' life?
You said economist almost like insult, but I won't take it that way. No, but I think absolutely the recruitment fee is an important issue, and it is a barrier for many of the lower skilled workers to be able to have the opportunity to go and work overseas. And as my Lao colleague, of course, mentioned, the issue of undocumented workers. There are more, because we don't know for sure, but there are probably more undocumented workers than there are documented migrant workers in this region, right? Some people think it's a multiple. So I think rules and regulations and standards are critical in ensuring that we have a fair recruitment fee. But when there is more supply than demand, then the undocumented issue creeps up, and then the exploitation is even greater than any exorbitant fee. So we need to try and make sure that everyone comes in a documented way and fees are kept reasonable.
Yes, I agree with that point. So procedural is very important. So according to Dr. Vian, I know that your background is a lawyer, right? And so I would like to ask a question. Rules and regulation, okay, that's very important. And what kind of measurements, according to you, that we need to enforce, okay, the enforcement of measurements for a better life of the migrant workers?
Yes. Law and regulation, I think it's very important, and I think everyone accept it. We have heard from our colleagues that we said that we have the law, right, in each country. If you look at the law and regulation, you should think about the national or each country or regional. When we're talking about national, so we have concern about domestic law. For example, when we're talking about migrant workers, the law that we have to concern is about the labor law. Yeah. What kind of labor law do you have in your country? For example, in Laos, we have labor laws quite a long time ago. However, we doesn't have the law on employment. And that is the key issue that I want to share with you, that we try to improve the life of migrant worker. So that's why just last year, we just have the law on employment that for changing migrant worker from Laos to work in Thailand, Japan, and South Korea. Yeah. And within the ASEAN, I think we try to cooperate with Malaysia for sending migrant worker, but it's just on the test on the first stage. So we hope that we could cooperate with another country in ASEAN more. And the law within the ASEAN itself, I think it should be all standard. We should conduct the code of conduct, so it make like for every country at the same. But at the moment that what I have said, but what I have seen is we have like a bilateral agreement and some multilateral agreement that is related to the migrant worker in ASEAN.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Vian. Yes, law enforcement is very crucial here. All right, so because we know she worked in Hong Kong before as migrant domestic worker, so we would like to know more from Annie. The lack of rights and protections of migrant workers, of course, it impacts a lot, significantly impact to the mental well-being of the migrant domestic workers. Would you like to share something with us?
So if you see in ASEAN, we have Malaysia, we have Singapore, some of the receiving countries, but also you have Indonesia, Philippines, Laos, Cambodia as ascending countries. And the problem, as what I mentioned, there is no standardized rights within this region. They've been doing all this migration business for the longest time. Maybe some of us were not even born yet, but yet they don't even care of regulating the whole system, even if they meet every year with ASEAN, right? So this is one of the biggest questions. That's why our critique, it is not because there is no protection, it is because they really don't want to protect. There is no political will in the first place. I think that is really the gap within the law enforcement. The second is the consequences paid by the migrant workers is really grave. The wages is very low, and in fact, among the migrant workers, they are made to compete for better wages. Filipino will be higher, and then Indonesian and Laos and Cambodia. If Filipino is too high, then another nationality will be brought in. It become a market, and that's danger. That's danger because employer or company will use it just to get the cheapest labor as possible. And the third also issues aside of the wages. Now we even haven't talked about the living wage. This is just wage, Some even $400, some even lower than that. But the point is, it become a commodity. The migrants are made to compete between iPhone or Samsung. This is what we are. Another thing is, when it comes to rights, no day off, no standardized day off. And this is really big issues. Migrant with no day off is crazy. Just imagine yourself being confined in a house for a month. During COVID, my God, I think everyone goes crazy, right? Because you cannot go out and hang out. So, I think the day off is crucial. Without day off, is no human right. And the rest is really another benefit. You know, the ILO already put the standard on what workers' rights are. But I think ASEAN countries really do not want to follow and adopt those rights. And these ASEAN countries are really enforcing what I call it modern day slavery.
Okay, thank you, Annie. So modern slavery. Okay, we would like to ask Adrian now, because Adrian, you work in NGO. Would you like to share something about what is the role of NGO? Yeah.
So earlier, the word ILO was mentioned. So ILO is like the UN, but focusing on labor. But the difference between ILO and the UN, the ILO is tripartite. So it includes government, trade unions, and employers. And in ASEAN, many of us push for NGOs to be included. The problem is that the trade unions and the NGOs may not see each other as equals, but we said, never mind, let's talk, let's sit and talk officially. Now, the problem with ASEAN is, even though the NGOs and the trade unions can give our proposals, and every year the ASEAN Forum on Migrant Labor sits, so years and years of coming up with recommendations, but the problem is there's a structural problem with ASEAN. So the three pillars, who can mention the three pillars of ASEAN? Go ahead. Okay, give him some chocolate, please. And give us clap. So the problem is the ASEAN structural has non-interference and consensus. So even if 10 or 11 now of us come and sit together, normally the debate is between the country of origin and the sending and the country of destination. So they disagree on many things, and that's why things cannot move. So it's quite, sorry to use the word, it's quite pathetic, but hopefully you, the younger students, the young workers of today, tell ASEAN you need to change, you need to rework, revamp this three pillar and remove this consensus and non-intervention, because ASEAN has to be democratic. Today morning they said our integrity and the young people are looking for leaders who can walk the talk. But if we ourselves as ASEAN is not democratic, then we have a problem. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Adrian. Okay, so that's coming to very crucial now. Okay, so we talk about strategy and solutions. Okay, let's talk about say better practices maybe. So when we talk about better practices, do you have any solutions or concrete actions, concrete strategies or solutions giving to government or other stakeholders?
Right. I think the first thing is to recognize and deal with the undocumented migrant problem, right? These are the people that are most vulnerable, and they are the ones that have basically no social or other protections, and they are prime candidates for all forms of exploitation, economic and social and even physical exploitation, right? Having said that, how do we go about this? Well, ASEAN has tried, but ASEAN has its own difficulties in dealing with these cross-border issues. I think if we cannot escape the fact that these have to be first and foremost dealt with at the national level, engaging all the stakeholders that Adrian mentioned earlier, right? You need the trade unions, you need local governments, you need the NGOs, all of them working together at the national level. Then you move on to the bilateral, and then if you're feeling more ambitious, you try and go regional, right? Of course, the regional solutions would have a greater effect, but it would be more difficult. There are multilateral dimensions too. I'll give you one quick example. If you think about the WTO and the kinds of labor standards and so on that they try to incorporate. And this feeds into trade agreements as well. The US is very big on bringing in these trade labor clauses, but often it can be used as an instrument of protection, right? Where they actually are guarding against decline in wages at home. right? To try and protect the welfare of their own workers. So we have to be careful because there are the vested interests, there are, conflicting interests, but I would say national with multi-stakeholder participation, then go bilateral, if possible regional, and the best outcome is multilateral, but the hardest.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Jayan. And how about Dr. Vie? You have any concrete actions or solutions?
Yes, continue to what I have mentioned earlier that undocumented document, right? That is the one of the crucial issue, and I will give the very concrete examples because during COVID-19, I think everyone and most of the country have faced the problem, and in Laos also, I have mentioned that there are so many undocumented migrant workers who went to Thailand to work, and at that time it's terrible because they have no document, right? They did not come back to the country. So what the solution is, the two governments, Thailand and Laos, they set up the meeting, they have agreement and announce the policy that even they are undocumented document, they could come back. Because in all the job in most the factory in Thailand also closed down, right? So they have no work. When they have no work, they have no money. They have nothing to eat. They have no money to pay for the household, for example. So that's why the government try to cooperate with each other and sending back the migrant worker to Laos. So that is the very concrete example that happened. And after that, the two governments also cooperate for giving the chance for the migrant worker who would like to work in each country that have the facilitate for the faster step of making visa, working permit visa. That is make a shorter process to helping the migrant worker to work it is easier and more effective in the legal process. Yes.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Pian. So Annie, I know you have very good experience in advocating migrant domestic workers. So according to you, what should government and all the engaged stakeholders do more to do a better practice?
Well, I can list many things. I don't know if they do it. And honestly, we are very exhausted of, wishing list. It has always been a wishing list. But let me just give you some of the concrete things that we've been doing and we can do. So ASEAN has been dumb when it comes to migrant workers protection. It's not a secret at all. But in 2011, when the ILO actually adopted the Convention on the Protection of Domestic Workers, we call it C189, then ASEAN was actually shaken to do something about it. Yeah? Because the biggest number of migrant workers in ASEAN countries are women, domestic worker, and caregiver. Yet this is the most marginalized migrant sector in the sub-region. No protection, nothing. Yeah? And it's kind of slavery, I can say again. Now, because of that, some countries, through national campaign in Malaysia, in Singapore, were trying to campaign for 1 day of campaign, we call it. So now, those countries are actually giving a day off for domestic worker. But again, this is not ASEAN. This is national country-based initiative. Now, in ASEAN, there was a push, I think Adrian can share more, there was a push to create migrant worker blueprint. So in 2017, there is ASEAN Consensus on Protection and Promotion of Rights of Migrant Workers that has been a dialogue and pressure for many, many years. Now, what is the problem with that consensus? It has no teeth, no legal binding, no implementation. It's up to a country, up to Singapore, up to Malaysia, up to Indonesia, up to whatever country, whether to apply or not. So that's why it became toothless. Now, what has been doing, at least what has been ongoing on the ground, is really the power of community organizing. Even domestic worker without day off, because of the social media, we are organizing. We have WhatsApp group, we have Facebook group, Instagram group, all this group. But this is actually a means of sharing information, telling each other, oh, you claim your right, tell your employer you want day off, blah, blah, blah. So organizing on the ground has been very effective of pressuring government. In our context, because we cannot do much in Malaysia or Singapore, we cannot protest. So we pressure Indonesian government. That's why there are more MOU with Malaysia, with Singapore, at least, for example, to increase wages and also ensure a day off. So this kind of example we have to continue. But again, the regional aspect, yeah, please tell more how is it.
Please tell us more, Adrian.
So the way the ASEAN consensus was done was in total secrecy. So that is very sad. The group of bureaucrats or the public servants will discuss. And then the NGOs and the trade unions, we have to guess. We have to play like, you take the 4D or 6D number, right? We have to guess what is in the document. So for 10 years, we are playing this game, And then 2011, somebody leaked the document. And then the government said, oh, somebody leaked. Then we start from scratch. So then again, another 6-7 years of debate. So that's the problem. The very core of ASEAN needs to be more democratic. I like today's proposal. Today someone said, any ASEAN meeting, the grassroots has to be there. They has to be there. So you have a check and balance of your leaders and make sure the grassroots aspiration is there. But for me, from a more practical point of view, I agree with the organizing. That is non-negotiable. The workers have to be empowered. They need to know about their rights. And unfortunately, we'll have to do it bottom up and also top down. But top down doesn't mean the elites decide for the migrants. What I mean is you go back to the ILO standards, go back to UN conventions and follow that. The standards are there. ILO is a 100-year-old organization. There's one video of Prabowo saying, diskusi, apa lagi. You remember that video, right? Same thing here. ASEAN, apa lagi now diskusi. Sudah, we have 20 years. How long you have been doing this? From 2008, I know her. From 2008. Debbie, 2005. We're talking the same thing and still we are begging for our rights. So hopefully the new generation make sure legally binding. That is very important.
Legally binding. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you. So now it's the time for the floor. We will invite 3 discussants. We have 3 discussants today, right? Let me see. The first one is from Civil Society Education Partnership, Timor-Leste. Okay, and the second one from Ayan, Brunei. Okay, and then the third one is from Army, Laos. All right. So we'll invite you to one by one. Stand on the stage or all right. Yeah, to give comment or questions. Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Jose De Jesus. I'm the National Coordinator for Civil Society Education Partnership as the National Education Coalition in Timor-Leste. I've been involved in the sending the Timorese workers to try to send the Timorese workers to Brunei last year, but it was interrupted because Timor-Leste is not yet member of ASEAN. So this is our first time, even not to ASEAN yet, but we have sent several number of Timorese working in Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, and mostly to Europe. Almost 18% of total population have been working in overseas, out of 1.3 population of Timor-Leste. So we are still in the gate to enter to ASEAN. So we'll be in ASEAN this year. So it will be more opportunity for Timor-Leste to send our workers to ASEAN countries. Then only 1.3 population, we need more people to develop, to be in Timor-Leste and develop our country. But because of the unemployed rate in the country is higher, so we have to send them to work overseas to get income and bring the money back to Timor-Leste, which is good for economically to develop the country and family. But there is also gaps for our country because we need people. if we send them all to work in overseas, then nobody in the country, then what's gonna be the future of the country? And also, for those who have been working overseas, they don't want to come back to the country because they have been like comfort living in Europe, living in Australia, rather than living in Timor-Leste. So do you have any thought on that? With the minimum number or small number of population, and then ASEAN opened the opportunity for Timor-Leste to send more, then what's the future of country in that case?
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, let us pull the questions first, okay? And then the second, yes, please.
Thank you very much. The panel discussion has been very enlightening so far. I have two questions very quickly. One is a prepared question and the other is a response question based on what was discussed earlier. The first one is regarding migrant workers, obviously. If we take into context the two countries that deliver the most, that send the most, which are the Philippines and Indonesia, right? We know that both countries have certain policies put into place to protect the rights of the workers that are being sent abroad. But in terms of the outcomes, we can see very different outcomes from both Indonesia and the Philippines. We can consider Philippines being a bit more successful in the way that they protect the migrant workers' rights. My question for this would be, what lessons do you think we can learn from this different outcomes despite having the same policy? Well, not exactly the same, but same intent with the policy. What are the lessons that we can learn together as a region for this? Second question is a follow-up based on what Ms. Eni and Dr. Adrian said earlier. You mentioned how ASEAN has to do a better job in assessing the efforts that have been put in place regarding this migrant workers problem. My question is, how does that look like? What does assessment look like to you? And in a response to a democratic ASEAN as well, I know you mentioned a bit earlier about how it involves getting grassroots in any ASEAN meeting, but I'd like to know more what a democratic ASEAN would look like, especially if countries like Brunei are not democratic or other countries that are not democratic within ASEAN. So what does a democratic ASEAN actually look like, and how can assessment look like for that as well? So yes, those are my questions. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so from Army Laos.
Hi, my name is Aiko, and then I'm from Association of Rural Mobilization and Improvement from Laos. Maybe I'm the last one. I'm not sure, but a lot of people will ask, and they ask a lot of questions, so I will keep it short and keep my questions. So first of all, I will say thank you for raising such an important point about the challenge migration worker face. So I'm quite, I heard a lot of migration workers that across in Asia, but maybe I'm newly here. So, but I still have a questions. Many young people leaving the rural areas to work abroad. So how can we balance the opportunities of migration with the need to keep the talents and skill at home? Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the first question was about the future of the country. If a lot of people, the population, they all migrate somewhere to work, so what is the future of the country? Yeah. Do you have any thoughts about this question? Maybe Dr. Jay?
Okay, I think that question also ties in with the last question,
Yes.
right, from Laos. So to try and link them together, I'm Malaysian, I work in Singapore, but I've lived in the Philippines longer than any other country, right? So I'm a migrant that's migrating all over the place. But I mentioned Philippines because I think there we have quite, actually this relates to also a question you raised about Indonesia and the Philippines. So, oops, maybe I'll borrow yours if you don't mind. Huh? Maybe he just doesn't like me. The echo, okay. Okay. No? Yes. All right. I better do this quickly. Yeah. So Yeah, I think the Philippines does organize its labor for export industry as its derogatory references are made sometimes. And I think that is, I mean, the overseas foreign workers, they're called OFWs, are the unsung heroes, right, of the Philippine economy. And you can see how in almost every skill category, they do excel when they leave the country. So this is also a sign of how lack of governance, lack of institutions at home can actually pull down a country. Because once they are away from those shackles, they do extremely well. I mean, they're highly sought after domestic workers, they're highly sought after construction workers in the Middle East, the lawyers and doctors, even the White House cook is a Filipino, right? So, yeah, so they do extremely well when they get away, but then your greatest resource is your human capital, are your people, right? And we have now an industry of export and dependency where the system is sustained by this export, remittances coming back, and there's no incentive for change. So I sometimes say what the Philippines needs is a real crisis to change the system, right? It has mini crises all the time, but maybe one that makes you rethink this model for long-term development, where you create the opportunities to keep your greatest resource employed productively at home. But that involves addressing the root causes of why they leave, which is, things, not just corruption is part of it, but also the lack of institutions, lack of opportunities, the investment climate, a whole host of business costs that need to be addressed. So, the Philippines, I think, is both a success story of exporting of migrant workers, but also it's not a sustainable model for long-term development.
Yeah, that's a good point. Annie or Dr. Vian, you would like to add up something?
Yes, I would like to emphasize a little bit because the question that Timor-Leste have asking, I think is the same issue happened in Laos also, because most young people, they love to migrate to another country to work, because when they go abroad, they could get more money. And I would say that somehow our salary is very low in Laos, so that's why they prefer to drop out from school, across the borders, or even go to a bit farther for work. And because to compare to the income, it's totally different. So that is the issue. And at the same time, we also have like a shortage of labor in Laos. So how could we solve that problem? That is the big issue, I think, and it happened in many countries, not only in ASEAN, but also in other countries all around the world. And what the Lao government try to do that, firstly, that they try to cooperate with another country. For example, I have mentioned that Lao have sending migrant workers to Thailand and also Korea and Japan. So they cooperate, they try to cooperate between the bank in Laos and the bank in those countries and facilitate the bank for the sending remittances back to Laos. So they can, when they get money, they can send back easily, and then they can bring their house, they can make some business. That is one policy that trying to get more income from laborers. But another issue that the government try to make it, because they try to encourage people when they finish the contract. For example, when they go to South Korea, they have like for example, they go like the season system. It's like a 5 months, and then they can come back to Laos. And when they come back, they have to get the certificate from their work. And when they come back to Laos, they could be the trainer for other workers in Laos. So that is try to encourage, like we have like a special policy for migrant workers who have experience, and we try to attract them to come back to Laos. Yeah,
That's a
thank
good
you.
point. Upskilling and
like a-
education.
Yeah, try to make
Yes,
them
it
like
is,
a
yeah.
skilled worker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, because the third question also covered recruitment fee, and also how we should keep the talents. Any strategy? Maybe we would like to ask Annie Lestari. Annie, do you think? What do you think about how to lower the recruitment fee of the migrant workers? And is there any strategy to keep the talents just not going? I mean, just go. Yes, we can go. We can go to migrate or as domestic workers or migrant workers, but they will come back one day. Yep.
Inshallah. Okay. I think for Timor-Leste, I like this. I just want to complement the point. All countries who send migrants, it began in 1970s. Indonesia, Philippines, and other neighboring countries. They do not plan to send permanently. All the argument is temporary. And no countries in the world today, mostly like in Asia especially, accept permanent migration. Yeah, so that's another condition. So what does it mean? The very intention that it is going to be temporary solution, in the end of the day, after 40 to 50 years, it become permanent dependency. So this is the danger of it. So I think this is one critic. So please be careful when you design labor migration and they will not come back and then the country will depend on the remittances. The second is what I want to throw, because I work with the global migration, like our member is in 35 countries. What we notice is countries who actually send migrants the most: Philippines, Mexico, India. This is top 3, at least within that top 10. Indonesia is number like 10 or 12 something. Their countries, actually, their GDP, 20 to 30% are from the migrant. What does it mean? That means that country without migrant collapse. Look at Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, during COVID, their economy, why? Because no money was sent to home by their overseas Sri Lankan. So this is actually the danger of dependency to migration. That migration become a temporary, perhaps is okay. I don't want to say yes or no, but if a national economy cannot design their economy and offer a better offer for their people, naturally people are leaving. In the case of Philippines, the local employment doesn't even give them a proper income at all. They study so hard as nurses, doctor. But to be nurses and doctor in the Philippines is too small. So they go to Germany to be a nurses. So that's one thing. So it's really a combination between preparing the national economy and making sure that they can live enough within the country and also educating the community. So I just want to say that, okay, before your population going outside and almost gone, please think about that, okay? Now, another thing I want to respond was the issue of the recruitment. You know, recruitment is easy but not easy. Because if they want to come to the G2G, government to government is one way to solve. The question is why this government doesn't want that. It has more work to them. And why? Because this is manual migrant. They don't think, they will talk about that when it comes to what? Manager, CEO, company. But the low-ranking migrants, they don't want to think about them. So why not outsourcing to the agency? So removing of the agency and make this government accountable by what? G2G. You know, I send to you, you recruit from me, any problem, we are the one dealing with each other. I think this is what has to be pushed. And has something to do now with the Japan and Indonesian economic partnership. But remember, it's not Indonesia who won the G2G, it's the Japanese government. So if we want to push G2G, it should come from receiving countries. The sending countries, they are so happy for people to live through the agency, it means less work for them, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Annie. So, wow, Adrian, become your homework now to answer the questions. The first one is about the democratic ASEAN. Okay, so what it looks like.
Yeah, so since 2005, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a platform called the ASEAN People's Forum. So whenever there was a big ASEAN meeting of officials, the civil society would meet. Different sectors, we would discuss, we would bring the aspirations, document. It's all documented. And of course, it should be more than symbolic how we pass it to the ASEAN leaders. But then again, the follow-up has always been a challenge. How much of all the recommendations are actually included. But that's a good start. So I think it's already, how many years of APF? 20. So don't give up. Don't give up. Don't forget, ILO is 100 years and still struggling. The UN, how old is the UN? How many years? 1948, right? Something like that. So it takes time. But our job is to make sure the grassroots are ready. And these questions are very important. The migration that is a phenomena, which is natural, people want a better life. Maybe it's not even for income. Many don't have that, it's only for income. They want a better life in different ways. Versus the exploitative, corruption, capitalist type of migration. This is our dilemma. And our leaders' role is to make sure that the migrants have the option, they can choose. Currently, it's not a choice. They're willing to pay $5,000 to migrate. Can you imagine? That's not a choice. That's months and months of salary. There was one experiment in Bangladesh where in one village, so many people were migrating, and it's linked to your question on rural communities. They did an agroecology project. Make sure the marketing is done properly, the formula for the agroecology, what they call it, the booster works. And the number of migrants reduced. So it can be done. But then we need all the creative solutions. We need AI, people to think about AI. Don't underestimate AI, even though migrants are already using AI in their work. I don't know how many of you here practically use it, but it can be done. So we have to think of these things, keep having more dialogues. Along the way, the migrant community will decide, end of the day, it's their issue. The sad part is there's just no job opportunities, decent work back home. And that's our fault, that's our problem. Why have we not developed that? And then we tell migrants, go to Malaysia. Please, Malaysia is not a safe place, I can tell you. Not that I want to embarrass my own government, but I've seen the cases. Broken bones, broken families. The tongue gas exploding in the face, it's crazy. If you want to see horror movie, you can come and do case management in migration in Malaysia. Shocking stuff. So let's make migration an option, rights-based, and hold ASEAN leaders accountable. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Adrian. Okay, we can open one question from the floor, okay? Okay, so you first, yeah. Please give one microphone.
Hi, I'm Debbie from ASEAN Burma, and I started becoming an ASEAN activist in 1987. So, I think we also need to recognize a few things, that the boom in migrant workers, including undocumented workers, also includes, the push factor is also state violence and repression. So in Laos, a lot of young people from Laos were displaced by mega projects and government repression. You don't have to agree. And also, when they expressed their opinion on internet, they were persecuted. So they don't want to be there. They see no future in it. In Burma, Myanmar, there is a war going on where there are 30 airstrikes, artillery attacks, and military attacks on civilians a day. And the military is forcibly conscripting people, men and women. They are forcing them to join the army if you're aged between 18 and 35. So, we also have discrimination. A lot of women are becoming migrant workers because they are discriminated in their own societies. So when we look at that, we have to also look at that elephant in the room. And people being displaced by mega projects has been really horrific, and they don't have anywhere else to go. The other thing, the problem is not that we have undocumented migrants, or the problem is not the migrants, it's the whole system that actually makes them give up more than half their salary in all kinds of fees and taxes. If all of you are working and you are forced to give up half your salary, you'll definitely be on the streets. So this is the thing that is problematic. But I also have to say, sorry, Jayant, there's no such thing as an under-skilled or lower-skilled migrant worker. Care work takes a lot of skill. Manual labor, you cannot discount the technological knowledge and just even understanding of basic physics when you do manual labor. So the problem is not that they are under-skilled. The problem is that their skills are not recognized and compensated.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, thank you for the comment. Yeah.
Sorry, in my defense, can I say, I didn't say under-skilled, I just said lower skill. Yeah.
Lower skill. Yeah. Okay, so the last comment. Yeah, the last one. Yeah. The microphone, please pass the microphone to him. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to direct. My name is Andreas. I'm from North Sulawesi, Manado. I want to direct my question to Mr. Jayant as he's from Singapore. It's regarding undocumented migrant workers. Before undocumented migrant workers. Before I ask my questions, I want to make a short prelude. I believe that undocumented workers is because of also skilled workers. Less skilled workers, people without degrees, or even people with degrees but with less experience. That's why they pursue an easier way to get a job that is without document or illegally. In Germany, I want to make an example. There's something called Ausbildung, or apprenticeship, where they recruit people and train them from basics. So even if they are less skilled, they can be trained to be skilled workers. This could be a reference for the better economic countries like Singapore that have better paying jobs. And maybe Thailand also for workers from Laos. Maybe what do you think about apprenticeships in better economic countries? Focus on ASEAN, for example. So people from Indonesia, Laos, Cambodia can work in Singapore or Thailand, and they can have a legal way to work without asking to be need skilled workers. So legal work for less skilled workers. That is my question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, Dr. Jayan, please.
Yeah. Okay. So I think this idea of having an apprenticeship program with vocational technical skills. And Germany is a leader actually in that field, and they've done extremely well. I think there's a lot to be learned from that experience for this region. From what I can see in Singapore, there is a lot of training provided in the so-called lower skill categories, even after they arrive in Singapore. So you don't just arrive and then start working, right? There is training, but not in the kind of structured and formal way that occurs in Germany, perhaps. But again, I think referring to different skill categories, we know now that all jobs are at risk, right? It used to be that automation was going to take over the more repetitive jobs, right? But now we know that all skill categories with AI are at risk, and that's where we need to find, better public-private coordination in how to use the skills that are available or develop the skills to complement what AI can do, right? And that's where the challenge lies. And I think it's not just at the higher education level, but also at the vocational level, yeah. But there's no judgment when I say low skill or lower skill, right? I'm not undervaluing the contribution. It's just a way of categorizing different skill levels in the labor force and how they're compensated, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jayan. Okay, it seems that our discussion comes to an end. Let's end it with very short, like last closing statements from each of you. Okay, so maybe from Adrian, yes, closing statements.
So just to debunk this concept of undocumented or what governments like to call illegal, actually it's a weaponization of the workers' immigration status to exploit them. We should, and no migrant in their right mind, if they know the options, safe options, will want to choose that path. Because that is human trafficking, that is exploitation. So the system forces them into certain paths that cause them to be undocumented. So I think we need to be very clear with that, remove the judgment. And when it comes to the so-called low-skilled labor, actually the huge percentage of the global and local economy depends on the informal economy. The sad part is the value has not been assigned to them. And that's all of our jobs, to recognize work and ensure they're given a proper value, especially the interns who help organize this program.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, Annie?
Thank you. So I just want to address your question. Why Filipino is better protected than other nationality? This is also our question. So somehow, we actually make a study with the Filipino migrant workers. You know why? Because in the Philippines, since 1974, when the government sent out migrant workers, they are already included in the labor ordinance in the Philippines. That's why they have standard right like other workers in the Philippines. And the agency who send them abroad are equal to the employer. They can file legal cases, they can go to the court, to higher court, even Supreme Court in the Philippines. So that's number one. In Indonesia, in Laos, and other countries, I don't think so. We are not within legal protection in the country. And I think that's one thing to push within ASEAN. It's not enough to rely on ASEAN. And another thing is in the host countries, if we want to talk about protection, simple. Please include them in the labor ordinance. That's the one way step to legalize their protection.
Yes, thank you.
Equally.
Equally. Thank you, Dr. Bien.
And for me, I would like to emphasize that migrant worker is human, so please provide equal access service to all migrant workers. That would help for their life and protection. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And
Okay. Let me finish by bringing up a slightly different issue, and I think it relates to what we are saying about how we don't value the contribution of migrant workers enough. And if you look at every economic study that has looked at the costs and benefits of migration, every study that I know of says that it's a net positive. And almost every politician who wants to score cheap points will tell you the opposite, starting with the current US administration, right? And so in difficult, uncertain times, migrants become the whipping boy, right? The favorite one to point the finger at, and I think the last point made about not valuing the contribution of low-skilled workers is a very important one, right? The country I lived in the second longest is Australia, right? And I'll tell you a joke to finish off, and that is about how...
But the time is limited.
I know, very quick joke, okay? And that is someone needs a plumber. The plumber arrives, fixes the plumbing job, and offers the bill. And the person looking at it says, I'm an economic professor, right? And do you know how much I earn? Shocked by the bill. He said, yes, I used to be an economics professor, and now I find that plumbing is a better job. So value the contribution accordingly, and when the system is set up in a way that doesn't discriminate against manual work, everyone can get a fair return for a day's job well done.
Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, value the contribution, and we work together toward a better life of migrant workers. especially in ASEAN. Okay, so give round of applause for all the panelists today. And okay, so we have Give's presentation for the panelists, is it? Yeah.
So thank you very much to our panelists for such an insightful discussion. Once again, let's give them a warm round of applause. Before closing this session, we kindly invite the panelists to remain on stage and stand up for a group photo. And as a token of appreciation on behalf of Dr. Dino Patijalal and also FPCI, we would like to present a souvenir to each of the panelists who has participated in AFPC 2025.